I have Hannah Morgan here from Simpla Workflows. Yes, hi Hannah. We're going to be talking about Trello as a CRM. So last week we did a little bit of a touch on what is Trello, how you can use it, and now we're going to do a bit of a deep dive on a different way that we can use Trello. And I haven't used Trello as a CRM, so I'm excited for this information. Now, if you are tuning with us on our social media channels, remember that you can engage with Hannah. You can get your questions answered by our experts by using the comment section or the chat functions or the Q&A functions, no matter what platform you're tuning in from. Make sure these sessions work for you by getting your questions answered. Don't miss out. And always remember, if after this session you feel like you need a bit of support, contact us at support@digitalboost.business.govt.nz. We're here to help. So thanks, Hannah. Thanks so much for joining us here today. We are ready and raring to go on this Trello journey. I will let you get started, and I'm going to make sure that all the chats are working in the back.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Anna-Marie. I'm so excited to talk to you about Trello again. Like Anna-Marie mentioned, I did do a sort of overview, a full overview of what Trello is, like the basics of Trello. Feels like it was last week, but I think it was actually last month around mid-Feb. So if you today we're going to be just talking about Trello, a specific use case of Trello as a CRM. But if you're after the session, if you're interested to learn a little bit more about Trello, you can find the recording of that webinar on Digital Boost website under their webinar recordings. I think it's on their Facebook page as well. And you can find it on the Simpla Workflows LinkedIn page. So, all right, so let me just bring up my screen and we can get into it. So, should be able to see my presentation now. So today, Trello. Cool. Trello as a CRM. So CRM, customer relationship management tool. Now, for anyone that has heard of Trello or knows Trello, you may know that Trello is mostly used as a work management tool. So it's a very flexible tool and it can be used for a lot of different functions. And a lot of people actually use it as a way to stay on top of their leads or their client projects. So we're going to be really focusing on how you can use it as a CRM today. So before we jump in, I'll just give you a bit of an introduction into Simpla Workflows and myself. So my name is Hannah Morgan and I am the founder and consultant at Simpla Workflows. So Simpla Workflows, we're a sort of workflow consultancy. So we work and consult with a range of different workflow or project management tools like Trello. So we work with a lot of different businesses from lots of different countries and different industries, and we help them get set up in tools like Trello. So we do things like training, we give them advice on how best to use those tools for their particular use case, help with implementation, onboarding, and support. So we work with lots of different types of industries. So whether that's a real estate company wanting to have a better way to manage their buyers and their sellers, or let's say a construction company that wants a better way to manage their jobs, or like a not-for-profit that's wanting a way to manage their programs that they're running, or maybe even a large software company that wants to use a tool to better manage their team projects. So we work with basically any type of industry, any type of use case, and in any country. So not just New Zealand, but lots of different countries. So that's us in a nutshell. So let's go on to a bit of an outline of what we're going to be talking about today. So first off, I'll just do a quick intro into Trello. What is Trello? And just for anyone that is not very familiar with Trello first. Then I'll go into using Trello specifically for tracking your leads or your clients. So why use Trello for that purpose? There's so many different tools out there, and there are a lot of tools that are purpose-built CRMs like HubSpot or Salesforce. So why might Trello be a good solution for what you need. And then I'll go into a bit of an example workflow of like a customer relationship workflow, from capturing a lead for the first time all the way through to closing that lead. So what that looks like on a high level. And lastly, I'll do a bit of a demonstration as well. So we'll jump into Trello. I've set up this CRM board in Trello already. So I'll give you a sort of hands-on, walkthrough of what that looks like in action. So while I'm going through today's session, feel free to just ask questions, jump in. I'm happy to be interrupted. I'll pause a little bit throughout. There's quite a bit to cover, so I'll try not go too quickly, but feel free to just add your questions in the chat, or if you're watching from other channels like Facebook or LinkedIn, feel free to comment, and I'll try and answer everyone's questions as we go, and I'll leave a bit of time at the end as well to answer any last questions. All right, so what is Trello? So Trello, like I mentioned, it is a tool, a workflow management tool. It helps you basically manage your work into boards. So you can create lots of different boards in Trello for different purposes. So that might be a board to manage a project. It could be a board to manage your leads and your clients, like what we're going to be covering today. It could be a board to manage your lots of different projects your team are working on. It could be a board to store your recipes. Trello is a super flexible tool. And in one glance, Trello tells you what's being worked on, who's working on what, and where something is in a process. So if you were to look at a Trello board, you can kind of imagine it like a sort of digital whiteboard. So, and then imagine in that whiteboard, you have all of these lists that are filled with sticky notes. And each of those sticky notes is basically a task, or it could be a project or a contact for you and your team. And then imagine each of those sticky notes in your board has things like photos. It can link to other data sources like Dropbox, for example. You can attach documents like PDFs or Excel spreadsheets. And it's basically a place where you can comment and collaborate with your teammates. So that's really Trello in a nutshell. Okay, so why Trello as a CRM though? There are so many CRMs out there. Why might Trello be a good fit for you? So Trello is, like I said, super flexible, right? You can build it as you want. You can almost create your own sort of bespoke CRM system within Trello. So a few reasons here why that might be a good option for you. So first one here is, let's say you're a reasonably small operation or small to medium-sized business, and you're not quite ready to commit to a big, serious, hefty CRM tool like Salesforce or HubSpot. So you just need something that's reasonably simple, straightforward. It's, it could be free or more, low cost solution just to track your leads, have a single source of truth, just to stay on top of the leads and clients that you're working with and have it all contained within one place. So that's really great if you're not quite ready to commit to a big, expensive, complex system. Next one here is you might actually already be using a CRM. So you might have a CRM as a sort of contact database or a place where you're sending emails, like marketing emails and things like that. But it's a lot of those CRMs like HubSpot or Salesforce, they're not necessarily built for project management. So you might want to have a tool alongside your CRM to sort of leverage that tool's, your CRM's project management capabilities. So you're wanting a tool that allows you to sort of project manage your leads and your clients. So you can easily track the different stages that your leads are going through, and also collaborate on the tasks and actions that need to be done that relate to your clients, and collaborate with other teams like cross-team deliverables and things like that. So that's Trello is a great way to kind of use a more project management geared solution for that purpose. Lastly, here is you're just wanting something that's nice and simple. So a nice, easy visual tool for your team. So you're looking for a nice, intuitive, user-friendly system for lots of different types of or levels of technical aptitude. So you might have a range of different people in your team that are different levels of, some people might not be so comfortable with technology, and they just want a nice, simple, easy solution to track the work that they're doing on their leads or their clients. And that could be, whether if they're working at a desk, so they're at in front of a computer all day, or they might be on the road and they need something nice and easy to use on their phone or their tablet. So Trello, I've had quite a few clients that have sales members or project managers or on the road, and they're not really at a desk very often. And Trello has a great mobile app, which you can, which is really easy to use, and when you're on the go. So a few different reasons there why Trello might be a good option. Okay, so let's go into a kind of example workflow here. So we're going to be talking about high level. We capture a lead for the first time and we bring it all the way through, ideally, to closed won. So let's say you capture your leads through maybe through a forum on your website. You might have a contact form that people fill out that are interested in your product or services, or maybe a sign up form if they're looking to sign up for an account or a trial on your website, or maybe they just send an email to you or they call you, however you're capturing leads. So that's sort of the first step there. That information, that data, it might feed into a CRM. So you might be using a CRM or a database already, or you might not. Regardless, this workflow I'll be demonstrating today, it's not going to be looking at using a sort of database, but it can also work. Like I was saying, that use case of you might have a database alongside Trello. So in this step, you may have that information feeding into your like HubSpot at the same time. And then from there, we want to bring that information into Trello so we can start managing those new leads that are coming in. So the way that we're going to bring that into Trello, one way you can do that is through a tool called Zapier. Zapier, for those that don't know, Zapier is a tool that allows you to create if this, then that type automations, and it allows you to automate actions within one tool or across multiple tools. So it can actually help you connect different tools together. So for example, if someone fills out a contact form on your website, then Zapier can then create a new contact in your Trello board ready to start work on. So that's how we're going to be automating that process. So we don't have to be manually creating them in Trello and duplicating that work. We can avoid that. So that then feeds into Trello. So we've got a Trello board that's already set up that's containing all of these new leads that are coming in. And then they'll come into our new leads list here in our Trello board. And we've got all these different columns here that we're working on, and we can then move that new contact here from the new stage all the way through to closed won, ideally. So that's the basic workflow from end to end, really high level. That's what we're going to be focusing on today. Is this part here is capturing the leads on our website and then bringing them into Trello, and I'll demonstrate how that all looks like in Trello. Okay, so I think we're ready now to jump into Trello and we can see how this all looks in action. So I'm going to just bring up my Trello board now. So you should be seeing that. And so I've already set up a Trello board. So this is all being built. I've just customized this. You can create the board however you want. What you see here is, so this is our board. It's for the purpose of our like sort of sales pipeline. And I'll just quickly go over the design of the board and the basic sort of function of how it works, and then I'll demonstrate the process from end to end. I might just pause quickly. Were there any questions that came in?
There wasn't a question. The transcripts have been turned on. So if you were looking for that, they are turned on. The only thing I was going to say is I popped in all of the chats, the link to the last session. So if you're looking for a little bit more of an overview, you can use that link.
Awesome. So yeah, we've already set up our board, like I said. So I've created these lists here. They're all completely customizable. You can name them however you want. So each of these here, that's a list, these columns here that you see. And the way that I've set this up is that each list, it represents a different stage in the sales cycle. So things are moving from left to right. New leads are being added to our first list here. And then as things progress, then those leads are moving through the different columns all the way through to closed won or closed lost. So these, what you see here, these are our leads or our contacts or our clients. These are in Trello terminology, you know, those sticky notes that I was saying on the whiteboard, that's what they are in Trello terms. The proper terminology is a card. So these are our lists and these are our cards here. So each card is a contact. As you can see, the name of the card is the name of the company that is our lead, basically. So the use case that I'll focus on today is going to be talking about capturing leads. So kind of like a B2B type use case, managing leads. But this could be translated into any kind of use case, really. Anyone that manages people. So it could be these cards here, you know, right now they represent leads, but it could be clients, you know, maybe existing clients that are paying that you're wanting to manage, or, you know, maybe you're wanting to use Trello after people have started paying and you want to have a way to manage those new client projects, you know, as soon as they sign on for the first time. It could be, yeah, basically anyone that manages people. So this doesn't necessarily just have to be for new leads or prospects. These cards can represent anything, really. So that's the basic board structure there. So what I'll do is I'll walk you through the whole sort of workflow from the very first step. So what you see here is this is my website, and I've got a contact form on my website. So this is how we're capturing our new leads. So anyone that's interested in our products or services, they fill out this form, and then that's going to be sent into Trello so we can start actioning that new lead. So what I might do is I might put a bit of a story behind this use case, make it a little bit easier to understand. So let's say that this company that I'm going to be demonstrating, we're a coffee roasting company. So we supply businesses with coffee beans. We do monthly subscriptions. We work with different hospitality establishments. So they can reach out to us if they're looking for a sort of enterprise, like B2B option, where they get a recurring order every month. So anyone that's interested in that sort of more enterprise solution, they can fill out a form to inquire about that. And then from there, we want to basically be tracking that interest and nurturing those new leads so that we can move them all the way through and get them all set up and paying as soon as possible. So that's the sort of use case we'll touch on today. So let's say we have a new potential lead. Let's say it's a cafe. They're interested in switching their coffee supplier. They're looking for a new company to supply their coffee beans. So let's just fill this out. I'm just going to make this up, but let's call them the company name that's interested. Let's call them Cuppa. They're a cafe. Lana at kappa.co.nz. Okay, let's say, hi guys, oops, interested in using your coffee, looking for a monthly subscription. Do you offer samples? Okay, so that's a new lead that's come in here. So we're going to submit that form. And from there, if you remember that sort of high level workflow that I walked through, what happens then is as soon as someone submits the form, Zapier is going to bring that information into Trello. So this form that I've just filled out, it's just on my website. Zapier works with lots of different types of tools. So my website that I use is called Webflow. It's the website platform, but you might use something like Squarespace. Zapier works with different other website forms, or you might have like a Google form, or there's lots of different tools that work with Zapier. So in my case, it's just my website form that I'm using. But it also works with like emails as well. So if someone sends through an email, we can set it up so that it creates a card. There's lots of different ways you can achieve that information being sent into Trello. Okay, so that form's being submitted now. So we should see if all is working. Moment of truth. Hasn't come through yet. But what we can do is while we wait, I can actually show you the automation of what it looks like. For anyone that's not too familiar with Zapier, we're in a live demonstration here. So it was working before the webinar, but now it's not. So it's always the case. But this is how it works. It's kind of like an if then that sort of automation. So it's a trigger and an action type automation. So the trigger is when a form is submitted in my website, which is Webflow. The action is then to create a card in Trello. So the trigger is basically, someone fills out that form. And then the action is to create that card in our board and fill out the information. So basically taking that information like their contact name, phone number, the message that they've sent, it all gets pulled into the Trello board. So let's just go back. It still hasn't been created. Let's try again. I'm going to refresh that. Okay, let me just pull that out again.
I'm telling you, this is my week in a nutshell. No, no stress at all. Honestly, we're just excited to have a look at what's going on here.
Yeah, if it doesn't work, the automation, I mean, it works in theory. I can always create cards in Trello manually. So, I mean, what I'm showing you today is sort of like an add-on to Trello, is like automating card creation. But, you might want to just create cards manually. You don't want to automate that process, and you'd prefer to control it manually and just create those leads yourself directly in Trello.
I've never seen that track button come up. Is that what that is right there? That track on the dashboard? Yeah.
That there? No, yeah. That's something else. That's a power up of Trello. I'm going to talk about that actually in a little bit. But yeah, let's just try. I'll just try and submit that and see if it works. But yeah. Oh, that's funny. I tested it like 5 or 6 times, and
a card was sent. There it is.
Yeah, that was the test that I just sent through. It wasn't the actual form submission. So, but this isn't the exact one that I sent through, but we'll use this one as the example here. I might just rename it so it makes a bit more sense. So it was let's just say that was the person that emailed in. So basically what happens here is the name of the company will be the name of the card. So we can see here, Kappa, that was the name of the company that submitted that form. And the contact name, Lana, so we know who we're talking to. So that gets created there in our new leads list. And if we open that card, what we can do with Zapier, like I was saying before, is we can pull in information from the contact form. So the description, we can pull in that, the message. So if we want a bit of context around, what it is that they want, we can bring that into the description here. Contact information, name, phone number, email. We can contain that within custom fields within that Trello card. So we can create these customized fields depending on what sort of important information we want to be capturing. So I've just created these ones here. You can add as many as you want, depending on what information you need to be tracking. So we've just got some basic contact information here. We've also got a couple other fields within the card that we're going to fill out a little bit later once we have a bit more information. So the process is basically once a new lead comes in, the first thing we want to do is we want to assign that new lead to a salesperson. So who's the salesperson that's owning this particular lead? So what we can do here within the card, we can add a bit more information here. So we've got members. Oh, there we go. We can see that it's just come through. It was just a bit delayed. That's the one that we just submitted. But anyway, let's work with this one. So let's say now we want to we're assigning this to a sales member. So we can add that person to the card. Oh, they're all coming through now. Sometimes there's a small delay. So I was probably just being a bit impatient. So let's just archive these so we don't get confused. Okay, so we've got that new sales member that has been assigned to that card. So now we can see, as we're looking at this board, the little faces here will tell us who's owning which lead. So at a glance, it's kind of a nice little visual indicator there. So we now have the sales owner. So it's clear who's taking care of this lead. And from there, we want to move things forward. So there's going to be some next steps or some actions that need to happen so we can get this person on a call, get them qualified, and ideally make them a paying customer. So if we move down here, what we're going to see is this checklist here has been added to the card. So this is a checklist here, and this has been added automatically. So I've got a few automations running on this board here. So that first automation was, bringing in the lead through Zapier from our contact form, creating that card automatically. As soon as that lead has been created, what we can do is we can create these automations on our board. Trello offers lots of different sort of custom automations. This one that I've set up here is basically saying whenever a new lead comes in, we want to add this sort of templated checklist to the card, so that we can start ticking off those actions that need to happen as soon as a new lead comes in. So we might have these sort of standard tasks that we need to do for every new lead, but we can add, ad hoc tasks as well here as well. So I've got a couple of things here. The first thing is getting them on a call. So what we can also do is assign some due dates here. So we don't want to forget about these particular tasks. So let's add some dates, and we can assign those items to the right person as well. So now we have a couple of tasks. We're ready to start working on this particular lead. Okay, so let's say things are progressing. We've had that call with the company, so we can check off things as we work on them, so we can track our progress. We can see what we've done, what's left to do. And as we find more information on the customer, we can add notes through comments. So comments can be a way to collaborate with other team members or just keep a record of information here. So we can make notes if we find out a bit more context on what the customer needs. And we might want to fill out a bit more information now that we've qualified them. So let's say, okay, they're going to be bringing in $300 a month, and we're going to estimate that they'll close by the end of the month. They should be starting their subscription by March 31st. So once that's done, we can then move our card into the qualified list. So now that is now in the next stage. So from here, what's going to happen is we're going to see another checklist that's been added. So I've set up this automation is basically saying when it's qualified, when the customer is qualified, we've got another task here, and it's actually for someone else. It's for, let's say we have an operations team, and they're the ones that are creating the proposals or contracts for our new leads and sending them off to those to that customer. So we've got this task here that was just added automatically. So we want to make sure we add a date here so we know that it gets done at the right time, and we want to actually assign it to someone else as well. So what we've achieved here is we've been able to track our lead and contain the information as things progress. We can understand what the value is, when they're expected to close, all of the actions that like myself as the sales member that's owning this needs to do. And I've also been able to collaborate with others as well that are supporting this lead. So any kind of cross-team collaboration that needs to happen can be managed within this card. So maybe before I would be sending an email to this person on the operations team to get this contract written up for this new lead. And, if I'm managing, a huge amount of leads, sending all these emails, it's so easy to lose track of where everything is at. So now everything's contained within Trello. So any updates that happen, any communication between team members on this lead can all be contained within here. So, I could maybe talk to this person that I've just assigned this task to, say, hey, FYI, this is a priority lead. Can you please create proposal by March 21st? And they'll get a little notification. So they'll see that, and they can, chat back and forth with you here as well. So that's a great way to contain everything in one place and kind of cut back on those emails if you can. So great. So now let's say things are progressing. We've sent the proposal to this new client. Another automation happens. Once that proposal's been sent, the card then moves into this new stage here where it says proposal sent. So whoever's owning this, when any kind of status change that happens, they'll be notified. So I'll be able to see as the sales owner, great, proposal's been sent. Maybe there would be an attachment added here or a comment so I can see any additional context there. So that's great. So now we can, let's say we're talking with the client now, we're negotiating with them, and now they're in closed one and they're now a paying customer. That's great. One last thing that happens there, once they've all paid up, we've got one last task for our operations team to get that order all set up and sent out to our new customer. So we can then put a date against that and have that all ready to go in time. So that's a perfect workflow from end to end, assuming that they all end up paying and becoming a paying customer. But obviously we have close lost as well to keep track of anyone that might not be ready yet to commit. So we can always refer back to those ones that don't end up closing or they end up ghosting you. And you can always try and reactivate them or try and reach out to them again. So it's another way to keep track of those that don't always close. So yes, that's the basic workflow there. A couple other things I want to talk about on this board. So you might have noticed these cards here have these colorful labels on the front of the cards. So we've got a few different ways here to create some sort of visual indicators to help us prompt us on a next step. So maybe if someone needs follow-up, or we want to categorize our cards and focus in on specific, high priority, high value type clients, we can use these sort of top priority or high priority labels. Again, these are fully customizable. We can apply labels, and we can create new labels as well. So, if you wanted a way like referral, like types of leads to categorize them for tracking purposes, lots of different ways you can use labels. So that's the labels there. Now I'm going to talk about a couple add-ons to this board, but I thought I might just pause quickly before I kind of continue on. Were there any questions that came up, Anna Marie? Or
hello, I think that we may have a question. What level of subscription are you using?
Good question. Good question. Yeah. So Trello has actually has 4 plan tiers. They have a free plan. So you can actually do lots and lots of things with the free plan, and lots of people just use that free version of Trello. And it's totally fine and definitely usable. Using it on a personal level or professional level. You have a standard plan, which is I think like $5 a month per user. So reasonably low cost. There's a premium plan, which is the next step up, and then there's enterprise. So what I'm showing you today has all been achieved on the standard plan of Trello. So most of what I've shown you is actually more or less free, but the only features of the standard plan, like the paid parts of it, are these custom fields here. So those aren't available on the freemium plan. And then also the ability to assign dates and members to these checklist items down here. That's also a standard plan feature. So we can basically set this all up on the standard plan.
I can tell you what, though, I'm underutilizing this system. Most definitely.
Yeah, no, I mean, still you can do a lot with, you might not even need the custom fields. You might just use the description to say, name is this, Joe, number. That could be a way to keep that information as well. So custom fields are just a way to organize it. But
that's how I do it. I just have I copy and paste in there, or you can actually, your Gmail can actually pull it through. If you've got Google, there's some integrations there that you can use. And then we just put little people on them, and then the people, and then when you move it, take them off.
That's it. It's totally fine like that as well. So you might want to, if you're new to Trello, you might want to pilot it with the free plan, and that might be absolutely fine just using the free version. But you might find that actually it's going to be good, like really good to have maybe the ability to assign due dates and members to checklist items, or have these custom fields. But yeah, standard plan is $5 a user, so not too expensive.
I like the little, how when you've got the closed one, it does the little like confetti. Is that that must be a feature in that as well. That's quite cool. That's a reward there.
That's the little I guess you could call it gamification in a way, or animation. But it's just all you have to do is add the confetti emoji to the list. So if you can see, like, I've added emojis to the list here. I just like emojis. You don't have to add emojis, but if you create a list and put an emoji here, and it's confetti, either that one or the I think it's called ta-da, that one there. If that's contained within the list name, it'll do a confetti animation.
The little joys in life, eh?
Little things, it makes it all the while. It just makes things a little bit more fun and visual for the team. So a couple of things I'll talk about, just add-ons to this board, and then we can probably wrap up and finish up with any last questions. So on this board here, what we're looking at is basically a Kanban view of the board. So what I mean by Kanban, it's just viewing the board and with these vertical columns here, these lists, and the cards within the list. So it's that each list is a stage So we can easily visualize where everything is at in the process. So that's like a basic Kanban board. But we can actually visualize this information in different ways. So you have different ways to filter the board and different views of the board as well. So first thing I'll look at is filtering. So filter here in the top right-hand corner, you have the ability to filter on a couple of different things. So labels is one. So labels is a great way to just sort of focus in on specific cards. So when you're creating your labels, a great way to approach it is, if I was wanting to just filter this board to look at specific cards, labels is a good way to do that. So I've just filtered on the top priority label there. So now, let's say we have a bi-weekly meeting with the sales team and we just talk about those high value or top priority leads that are in the pipeline. We might want to use that filter there so we can just look at those particular leads. So that's one way to filter the board. Let's close off that filter. Another way is filtering on members. So we can filter on a specific user here and, just the ones where I've got my little face here, assuming, I'm owning those cards. So this might be, as this board starts getting quite busy, and the company is growing and we're getting lots of leads in and things might start getting a bit cluttered and you might gain a few more sales members. There's lots of cards on here that you might not necessarily need to be looking at on a daily basis. Filtering on just your cards is a great way to just focus on what you need to be looking at. So what we've got here now is just our cards. And what you'll actually notice is anytime you filter the board, you'll get a unique URL of the board. So we've got the board URL and then we've got this thing at the end here that says filter is on the member Hannah Morgan. So that's my sort of almost like my unique URL filter. So you can bookmark that URL. So let's say, actually every time I open up Trello, I just want this to be my sort of landing page because this is my default view. This is what I want to be looking at every day. I don't want to open this big board and be overwhelmed with all these cards. I just want to focus on these things first when I open the board. So we can bookmark that if you're using Trello in the browser. And, maybe if you're using Google Chrome, you can actually add a shortcut here. So that might be one way to do it. So you can create a shortcut here, add your unique URL, and I've already created it actually. So here's one I've already created earlier. So every time you open up your Google browser, you can click on that and it'll take you to your specific filtered view. So that's kind of a nice little landing page there every time you open up Trello. So that's the filters there. It's a great way to visualize information a bit differently. Another way to visualize the board is through our different views. So if you have a look at the top left-hand corner, you're going to see this little drop down here that says board. If you click on that, you're going to see different ways to view the board. So right now, yeah, we're looking at the board view, but let's say, this board as it gets busier, I just want to be looking at what actions I need to be doing. What are my next steps? All those little tasks that are within the leads that relate to those leads. Like what's my focus of the week? What do I need to be doing? If I'm looking at the board view here, it doesn't necessarily tell me like what's the next step in terms of what little tasks do I need to do. So if we have a look at this calendar view here, what we're going to see is we're going to see all the little checklist items that have a due date. We're going to see them represented on the calendar view. So if you like working in a sort of scheduled way where you want to just be like, okay, what's the on this week? Okay, cool. We've got these 3 actions coming up. So, as the manager, maybe if you're looking at, what's the team got on this week? What's the workload looking like in terms of tasks? We can see everyone's tasks here. Or we can just, again, we can filter. So we can filter on just my things, that might just be all I need to be looking at. What's coming up this week, next week. We can look, on that weekly view, monthly view. Obviously, I don't have a lot on, but But yeah, so that's another way to visualize that work if we just want to be focusing on those little tasks that need to be done. Again, this is a unique URL. So we can, if we want that to be our default view, we can bookmark that and it'll bring up the calendar filtered on your particular member. So that might be your sort of go-to view, filtered view for Trello. You can also sync this to your personal calendar. So if you want to have that represented in your Google Calendar or your Outlook calendar, you can use this URL. It's like an iCal link. So you know how you can, if you add a new calendar to your Google Calendar or Outlook calendar, you can add a new calendar from the link URL. So you just add that URL and you'll see it'll sync those items from your board that have a due date into your personal calendar. So if you want everything contained in one, that's a great way to manage that. So that's the calendar view there. One last little power up I'll cover, and then I think that's probably enough information for one day. But on the subject of calendar or different views, what I showed you there was these views here. It's a premium feature. So basically everything I've shown you up until now is available on the standard plan. These views are a premium feature. So if you're not ready to commit to premium yet, you do actually have the calendar power up. So power ups are just like add-ons to the board. And there is a free calendar power up you can use on any plan. You could be on the free Trello plan, standard, and you can see the same things represented in a schedule, either weekly or monthly. So that's another way to view things in a calendar if you're not ready to go to premium. So Anna-Marie, was there something else that came up?
There's a couple of questions. Yeah. So one says, how does the archive function work? As in, how long are items kept before deleting them?
Yeah, so they're on the board for as long as you want them to be. Nothing, unless you archive them manually or you have an automated archival system set up. So right now, like the only way for cards to sort of disappear off the board is if I archive them. So I can archive that card. So maybe you want to clear out your closed won list on a regular basis, like at the end of every month or something. You want it to be archived. Or what you can do is, what could be useful, what I'd recommend actually, is having a separate board to your CRM. Like if you don't want to be, you just want to be focusing this board on current leads. You don't necessarily need to be looking at the like paying customers that have in the close won stage. What I would recommend is having a separate board, and you could call that like archives or paying customers, and you could set up an automation that automatically moves anything in the close won list to that separate board. So that can be a sort of repository or database for you, and this board can be kept nice and clean. That's one way to do it.
I know that I have archived some cards before and then later reconnected with those businesses, and I've typed them into the search function and it comes up and it says archived, and I'm able to move them back to my regular board. Is there a point when they won't be there anymore?
No, they'll always remain on the board unless you manually delete them.
Okay, so it's just archive. Like archive is just a place where it stores it where you can't see it, and it doesn't actually delete it at any point. It'll just sit there forever.
Yeah, so we can archive something. Just a little top tip while I have you there. Keyboard shortcuts. If you hover over a card and press C for close on your keyboard, that archives it. It's just a quick way to do it. And then if we go into our board menu and under archived items, we can then search for, it was called test, I think. Is it there? There it is. So we can click on that and access it, and we can send it back to the board as well. So that's where you find them, or you can search them, like you said.
Oh, thank you. Couple more questions coming through. Can you set up member staff profiles in such a way that they are excluded from the certain tasks, maybe for privacy, or columns, maybe management specific?
Yeah, so kind of setting up like privileges or permissions. So they only see specific things in Trello. So what I've done here is all of these like members that you see on the cards here, they are members of the board. So if you see here, you can see all of these people up here in the top of the board. These are all my board members. So we can invite people to the board as a member or as an observer. So that's pretty much as far as individual privileges go. If you add someone as a member to the board, they can access all cards within the board. And Trello is designed like that, basically. So anyone that's a member here can see all the cards. They can click on them. They can create cards. They can add checklist items, make comments. They have basically all can make any change to the cards on the board. Observers is the other type of user, and they just have read-only access. So if anyone just needs to be looking at the board from time to time, they don't need to be editing anything. That's one type of user. But if you're trying to restrict access for to view specific cards on this board, so maybe, actually if I assign myself to this card, I don't need to be looking. I want to restrict this person from seeing other cards. We can't do that within the board, but what I would suggest is create a separate board for that person and sync the cards from this sort of main master board into that separate board and just give them access to that secondary board. You can sync things. This might be a separate session, but you can sync things using Butler automation or another tool called Unito Board Sync. So there's a couple options there.
Oh, another question here. If I add other users to my premium board, do they also need to be a premium member?
Yeah, so in terms of billing, like I was saying, the billing is based on a per user basis with Trello. So if you are adding, there's kind of like two different types of users. So let's say I have one board within Trello, just as one CRM board. And the way Trello's pricing works is that if you just invite someone to one board, they're actually considered as a guest. So you don't actually need to pay for them. But as soon as you add that person to multiple boards within your Trello workspace, then they become basically a member of your workspace, and you start having to pay for them. So if you have a Trello workspace with lots of boards, what I'd recommend, and you want everyone to have access to all those boards, what you can do is, if we look at our workspace here, this is our workspace settings, you have your members. I would recommend, if you want to have everyone have access to that workspace and all the boards within it, invite them as workspace members and they'll be charged. But if they just need access to one board, then they'll just be a guest and they'll be free. Hopefully that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how it works.
Second follow-up question here, or not a follow-up, but a second question. It says, also, is it right that if you have multiple workspaces, you have to have a premium subscription per workspace?
Yeah, so the workspace, yes. Short answer, yes. The billing in Trello works at the workspace level. So right now I just have one workspace. It's called Demo. That's my workspace here. When I pay for a subscription, so if I want to sign up to the standard plan or the premium plan, it'll be associated to this particular workspace. But if you have you can have multiple workspaces. So if you see here, I have two separate workspaces, this demo one that I'm showing you now, and another one called Simpla Workflows. So if you want these features, those premium or standard features applied to your boards, but you have multiple workspaces, what I'd suggest is any board that needs those premium features or standard features, add them to the workspace that is the paying one. So typically people will just have one main workspace for the company that's paying, and then you might have a separate workspace for like personal stuff that you want to keep separate, but generally you just have one main workspace.
Okay, yeah, that's a good trick, eh?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. You're welcome. Great. I'm loving all the participation today too, because I think that, I've got so much food for thought. I almost need to rewatch some of these sections just to go back and then try it on my own board. I believe that we use just the free board. So I'm sure but there's lots of things here that I've learned on ways that I can organize my data. And I love the Zapier pull throughs. I think that's really quite cool. That's a great way to save yourself some time if you like using this kind of setup.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and like you were saying, Anna Marie, you have the email to board function as well. So you can automate that when someone sends an email. You can have a new card created, like if it comes from a particular email address, or you can kind of set up that automation as well. Those leads could come in from different places. You might already have a database or CRM. So say like maybe in HubSpot, you've got your contacts in there, and maybe when a specific thing happens to a contact, we want to start tracking it in Trello now. You might have a trigger in HubSpot that then turns it into a card in Trello, so you can start managing that from within Trello. The different ways to bring things in automatically, and again, you can just add things manually as well if that's enough. If you prefer just controlling that process yourself.
Is there a way to bring like Google Forms into Trello?
Yeah, definitely. So through Zapier, you can do that. So like I was showing you here, you have my particular tool combination here was between Webflow, which is my website platform, and Trello, but you can create one between Google Forms and Trello. So you can say when someone fills out a form, maybe you're doing like a specific campaign, and you want to be tracking the people that fill out the form from that campaign. In Trello, you can create a trigger in trigger-based automation where it says if someone fills out a Google form, create a card with all that information in it. Yeah.
Right. We've done some sessions on Zapier, actually. I should find the link for that. There are some free options on Zapier as well. So, but it would depend on how much you were asking it to do, whether or not it'd be free. But a lot of small businesses, from the advice that I've gotten from some of the folks that use it, there is quite a lot that you can do with a free plan for a small business. Yeah.
What I'm using now that I showed you is on a free plan. It allows you to create up to 5 of these zaps. So that's one zap. That's called a zap there. So you can create 5 of those, and you have 100 actions that can come from that. So if you have 100 leads a month, then you'll be within limits coming in. But yeah, that's all free with Zapier.
Really cool. Yeah. It is a really cool app that integrates with lots of different things. It could simplify, mixing it with Trello and some other things that could really help you to not have to be copy pasting and going back and forth, make your life a little bit easier.
Exactly.
Question. If you need payment up front, can this action after payment has been collected? If you need payment up front, can this action occur after payment has been collected? Dean, can you word that? Because you probably were typing really fast. Is it payment for Trello, or is it payment for the job that you're looking to do? Maybe. Okay, so if you need payment for the job you're going to do up front.
Like, are you talking about your own business? Like if you're working with leads and you require payment before work starts or something?
I think so, yeah. But I just don't know how it's related to Trello. So do you think that are you talking about using Zapier or something so that it pulls through? Yeah, okay. So look, I'm like we're in our own language over here. So I guess, yeah, if you needed to have payment come through first for you to move it to something, then you could probably link your payment to Zapier that pushes through the fact that the person is paid to your Trello board, I'm sure.
Yeah, so you're talking about like kind of linking your payment solution like Xero or something so that you can see within Trello when they're paid or something like that.
I think that's what he's asking, yeah.
Yeah, that's probably like taking things to the next level, but it might be possible where we can create a Zap with Xero. We can see if they integrate with Xero. I'm pretty sure they do.
I think it does. Zapier links with it's part of most people use it in their tech stack.
Yeah, it looks like they do, but it's on a paid version of.
And that might be due to privacy laws, because it is an accounting app. It might have to do things like that, that it would need to be a different account.
You have Xero. Yeah, there's a Xero power up. I don't know if that would work in the way that for your particular use case.
Power ups.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, that's power ups. I was going to talk about another power up. I think we've run out of time, like a reporting power up to track the sort of metrics on this board, like in terms of how much money we've made this month and how much is left to close and all those things. So maybe there'll be to be a separate session on power ups and like integrations with other tools and things like that, kind of the next level up to Trello.
Okay. We might take this chat offline, Dean. Would you mind if Dean followed up with you just to ask you this question? It's just because it is after 11 and I'm just conscious of that. I think like you need to have a conversation. You might need to have a conversation.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So I mean, kind of just to wrap up, if anyone has any further questions on Trello or any of like those integrations with other tools, like connecting Trello with other tools, if you want to talk about that further, you're free to book a call with me directly. If you want to just jump on a call straight away through my website, simplerworkflows.com, or you can fill out my form on my website as well. There's a form there, or email me directly at hannah@simplerworkflows.com. Or if you're interested to find out a little bit more in terms of the services I offer and training and things like that, that's all on my website as well.
And you're also on LinkedIn. You can find her there. The link is actually in this video. So if you're on LinkedIn and that's like a way that you communicate, maybe you'd prefer the leads to come through a different way, but I know some folks are watching on LinkedIn. So if you're there,
definitely either way.
A good way. I love when people connect with me about their business on LinkedIn. It's really great. I like seeing the progress and following along.
Yeah, definitely. I'd love to hear from you, whether that's through LinkedIn or email or booking a call direct. Either way, you can reach out to me on those different platforms.
Yeah, definitely. This has been another wonderful session, Hannah. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Trello is a deeper pond than I had thought. It's more of an ocean, and I'm realizing.
There's so much more. I've just scratched the surface, honestly.
It's pretty awesome, actually. I've always liked Trello, but now I'm like, oh, I really could use this a lot. I could use it for a lot more things that I am using it for. It probably would have made my life a little bit easier. So I might look into doing some of that this week. And I hope you all found value in this session. And I look forward to you joining me again tomorrow. Tomorrow, we're going to be kicking off into a little bit of a different realm on e-commerce tips from a lady who's got about 5 businesses, and she's got probably 60,000 followers on social media, and she's one of those folks that does that kind of thing. And so she's an expert, and she's going to come on and chat with us about how to do that kind of thing. So look, it should be a really great session. Thank you so much, Hannah, for joining us here today. And I've dropped everything in the chat, but reach out to us or reach out to Hannah if you need any help. Thanks so much. Have a great day.